right. I am making, a broad physical TBR goal for 2025. I made a small one for 2024 and I liked it. And I have all these books that I really want to read. A lot of them are new entries to the TBR. And I just want to set the intention now. I want to put them on the top shelf of my TBR cart and be like, these are the books. Just as like a recap for last year, I put 13 books on my list last year, which you should be like, Angela, then how could you not have read all 13 books? That's just like a book a month. Why didn't you do that? Reasons, who knows? But I did read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, or tried 7 of them. I think one of these was a DNF. But it was a great success for me. And I did not read the others, but I have plans for them. None of them got just like kicked off the TBR. I did do a whole reading project where I read these books that would explode if I didn't read them or not. And that was a very fun time. So now instead of 13 books, which obviously I didn't even get a 100% rate with that, I'm doing 20. Which why would she? Because I can. And it's not like my entire physical TBR, but they're the physical books in my TBR that I've gotten very recently or have been languishing. And so for one reason or another, I really want to focus on them. They excite me, or I want to challenge myself to read them. So let us begin with, I have my stack. I think these are all romances. I don't really have an order to this, but I believe these ones that I'm holding are all a type of romance. One is the newest book on my TBR, and this is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I got this for free at a bookstore. It's kind of a bent up, smudged little copy, but that's okay with me. This is one of the Emily Henrys. This is the one where they always go to this lake house with friends, and it's the last time they're doing it, so these two people are pretending to be in a relationship, because why couldn't you tell your best friends that you weren't dating someone anymore? Who's to say? I couldn't relate to this. That I can already tell that the dynamics of this friend group, I'm just going to have to just suspend disbelief, because my friends and I, we don't do this type of thing. We go to lake houses, but we don't keep these types of secrets from each other. I think a lot of it is we just don't actually care that much about providing an atmosphere of fake happiness. I think that's more it. But that said, I want to try an Emily Henry. I've been wanting to. She gets compared a lot to things like the Abby Jimenez's that I like. So, it feels like this is as good of a place as any. None of the other books were like, no, this is the one I have to start with. Like, maybe the newest one that just came out was like a little more intriguing to me, but I figure I'll at least get a sense for her writing. The other one is Akwaeke Emezi. It's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. This was on last year's list. I didn't get to it, but I want to, because it's going to be messy and melodramatic and recovery from grief, and I want all of those things. And I just trust Akwaeke Emezi as an author. They are very, they play in a lot of genres. Freshwater and pet, very different things, both done incredibly well, so I trust them here. And I really actually like this cover. I think it's a very good tropical orange situation. Maybe if I'm lucky enough, I'm going to be going to the Caribbean in the nearest future to see my family, because that's where we have to go to see some of our family, because immigration is so fun. So fun. So yeah, this is on my list again. I'm still excited to read this. This one I might try for the winter because I feel like it gives me winter vibes, and that's Bitter Medicine. So this is an urban contemporary fantasy sort of romance, I believe, and I think it's going to be cozy but not too cozy, and I think its contemporary fantasy style is going to work really well for me and the romance, slice of life, friends to lovers energy that I believe is in here. I've been wanting to read this ever since I did the recent release roundup for this book. I think it could be for me. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, and I still want to. And so I think I just need to set a little intention of like, you want to read this in the winter. Maybe try to put it on your January or February TBR. Make an attempt. All right, these next two are my Caribbean SFF books that I haven't gotten to yet. One's Trinidadian and one is Barbados. I believe it's Barbados. Yes. So we have Anela Hopkinson, Brown Girl in the Rain. This takes place in Toronto. I almost read it when I went to Toronto. I'm going to probably be going to Toronto again, so maybe I could align it with that trip. I've read Midnight Robber. An incredible book. Heavy book. Challenging book in a couple ways because of the dialect that it's written in and the content of the material. Do not go into it blind unless you have like the thickest of thick skins for graphic material, okay? This I don't know as much about. I know it's speculative. I know it's in an urban setting. I think it's a little post-apocalyptic. I just truly haven't given it a good shake. I love this cover art. It's the same as my Midnight Robber cover art. It makes me excited. But I just haven't prioritized it. So I really would like to. Maybe this is the year where the mental health lets me challenge myself more regularly. And then this one's more just like, once I read it, I don't have anything else, and that's Unraveling by Karen Lord, an author I adore. I've done an interview with her on her sci-fi trilogy. I love her brain. I love how she writes. This is kind of a sequel to Redemption in Indigo, although I don't think it has the same characters. It's more just the same folklore space and world, maybe more horror leaning. I really love the Labyrinth cover, although there are new covers out. Is this one the one with the spider? I don't even know. But I have this. I've been wanting to read this for a while, and I just haven't because then I have nothing else except some short stories. And that would make me very sad. But I think I've held off long enough. So those are my Caribbean science fiction fantasy. Right now I have a stack of physical arcs from Tor that have, some have been languishing more than others. One is only a couple months old, but some of them are a little bit older. So, Into the Light. This is a young adult by Marco Shiru, who wrote Each of Us a Desert, which I loved. This is also, I think, a heavy young adult horror-leaning story, and I just need to read it. I really want to. I just haven't made time for it. I did put it on a TBR. It's just that I read other things off that TBR. I just didn't have space. So it was one that was on last year's list that I just didn't quite get to, but I would really like to. I'm tentatively thinking of doing like a challenge video of all three of these books for my patron or something. So, Into the Light, The West Passage, which is a Asian medieval fantasy. I was intrigued by it, but I knew I needed the audiobook. Like pretty early on, I'm like, I'm going to need an assist. I'm going to need an assist from this audiobook. But I mean, look at this art. It's so pretty. And then like, so even the ARC copy has the headings that I think are drawn like by the author. So it's a very well put together book. It's very well, like you can tell like the amount of love that went into its production. I just haven't been in the mindset. And also medieval fantasy doesn't always work, but I think this has eldritch qualities as well. So I'm intrigued by it. And the last one, I really do want to read this. I just kept hoping there would be an audiobook, and I don't think there ever will be, which is a shame because I think it would be so great with a great narrator, but this is the Jinbot of Shantyport, another amazing cover. Yeah, this is an Aladdin retelling in space. And there's this bot here who's like the genie telling the story. I think that's what it is. And I love them. I love their voice. I tried a chapter of this. I'm like, oh, I want to read this, but I wasn't in like a physical reading headspace, which I've been slowly clawing my way back to. But that's why I was like, man, I wish this had an audiobook. Like, I really do. So those are my physical arcs. And now, I don't know what to do next with this stack. Actually, I sort of do. I have 2 Sue Burke. So let's discuss Sue Burke for a hot second here. So I got 2 Sue Burke. One I got in Toronto, Sue Burke Immunity Index. I think it's a pathogen story. And actually, let me bring out a different pathogen story to put with it. So, survived by being perfectly normal. I don't know, it seems like it's going to be like an engaging time, fast-paced science fiction. Yeah, it's definitely about a contagion outbreak scenario. And then we have, by Michael Crichton, The Andromeda Strain. So, I got 2 contagion stories to read. One that's been like on my want-to-read shelf of Goodreads since I've had a Goodreads, maybe. And I finally bought myself a copy for my birthday. And so here it is. So we got 2 contagion stories. Maybe it's time, maybe it's time. Who's to say? And then the other Sue Burke is the ending of a trilogy that started with Symbiosis, which I feel like I just talk about all the time because I compare so much general science fiction to Symbiosis. But this is the 3rd book, Usurpation, and I'm just excited. Look at this Venus flytrap blue plant. Look at this. The integration of flora and fauna and new worlds and new communities is amazing. If you want something very, like, it packs a punch in a short amount of time, very fun thought experiments of communities, you gotta give it a go. Like, if you like Children of Time, do yourself a favor and try Symbiosis. You might like it more, you might like it less, but you have to at least give it a go. Oh, what's next? What's next? Now I just have a bunch of books. So many books. So we're just gonna go through the rest of them because they're just around me. This is, I think, the last one that was on my TBR last year that I didn't get to, and that's The Wolf by Leo Carew. I do have plans for this. This is one of the series I want to read in 2025 with some friends. So we'll see how it goes. My first impressions of the first 2 whole pages was, ooh, not right now. It was a little descriptive, which I know books are meant to be descriptive, but there's like a way of being descriptive that sometimes my brain bounces so hard off of. And that's what started here, and I just wasn't in the headspace for that. I think I was reading something else that was pretty dense at the time. So I know this has good cultural world building. I'm excited and hoping it'll be fun to read with a bunch of friends, and I think we have a sort of game plan for it. And now I think the rest of these are all books that I've bought this year that I am incredibly excited to read. And aren't any of them from the same place anymore? I think I've been pretty good at reading most of them. We'll just start with this stack because it's in front of me. Okay, so this is the short story collection that I'm super excited to read next year, and that's A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez, who wrote Our Share of Night, which is one of my favorite horror books ever. So good. And I'm really excited about this because a lot of people who've read this and Our Share of Night prefer this. And I think that just means I'm only in for a good time. I think it's just going to have all the stuff that I love from Our Share of Night, but maybe without some of the more like, you got to wade through some indulgent, long-winded moments to get to the good stuff. This might get straight to the good stuff. I'm excited. Also, this cover is so pretty. Like, look at that. Oh, I got this in Pittsburgh, which is very fun. And actually, where's my other Pittsburgh book? This is my other Pittsburgh book. Model Home by River Solomon. Haunted House book, River Solomon. Yes, I don't even care that this green is a little Kelly green for me. This is a little Kelly green. But I saw it in the bookstore we went to, and I always like to buy books at indie bookstores with places I travel, just because it's a fun momentum. And so yeah, these are the two that I picked up. I don't think I picked up a third. Maybe I did and I already read it. Who's to say? Let's see. Now I just have more stack. We have Chain Gang All Stars, which has gotten a lot of mixed reviews, but I still want to read it. I just haven't decided if I want to read this or their short stories next. The short stories I do have over here. I just never usually do a short story TBR. But I guess here's Friday Black, and then here's the novel. So I have these by this author that I would really like to try out. I just think that this would be propulsively readable for me. Like the Battle Royale adjacent situation, I think would be a really engaging time. Because even a lot of the critiques I've heard have only made me want to read it more. So, kind of excited. And then I've got a Temi O. This is More Perfect. This is a Eurydice Orpheus retelling in like an AI, not AI, but like an alternate reality, VR, virtual reality space. I read Do You Dream of Terror 2 a few years ago, and I just found, again, this was an author who wrote in a way that was very like easy to turn the pages. Fun ideas. Especially since this is meant to be more of a retelling of a romance, the thing that was strongest in Do You Dream of Terror 2 were the character interactions and the evolution of characters and their changes of agenda and need. Also, Do You Dream of Terror 2 just completely surprised me. So I'm hoping this is also surprising in a fun way. We've got my Tommy Orange. I have not read this yet, alas, but I have Wandering Stars, and I really want to read it. This is kind of a successor to There, which is a book I read by this author I think in 2018, 2019, and I loved it. So I'm excited to try this one out. This is a signed copy too, and I just think it's a really pretty cover. I just think this is really nice. You can tell I'm like a hardback girly, even though it's an expensive time to be a hardback girly. This represents a lot of things, but I have my Cryoburn copy, and I think for sure I'm finishing Verkosigan next year. Like, it's happening. I'm like on a roll. Like, give me a month, I could probably just only read Verkosigan and finish it out. I'm so invested at this point. This is a couple books after where I'm at. I think I have 2 or 3 books before I get to this one. Yeah, I think I need to read Diplomatic Immunity, Falling Free, and then I can get to this one. There might actually be a novella before that, or something like that. Who knows? It's like something with flowers. But this, and honestly the rest of the series is on my list, and any of the ebooks that I did get from here, because this is a really fun copy, because it came with a CD-ROM, which had all the ebooks up to this point, except for Memory. Which is still like a bananas great deal, so I'm pretty excited about it. Just had to do some weird conversion of EPUBs. And then we've got another horror book. We have We Used to Live Here, so it's another like, I don't know, tense house situation. I hesitate to say haunted house. I have no idea how supernatural this book is, and I don't care. Everyone's been loving it. This is another like, I think, winter adjacent book. I want to get to, like, look at it. It's got snow, it's in Canada, I think, or at least the author's Canadian. I have no idea if this is in Canada. It says Get Out meets Parasite, and I do like both of those movies, and I'm also okay if those comps were just meant to make people buy the book and it's its own thing. That's fine too. But this is a new book that just got added. And then the last one is a sci-fi, and this is Ocean's Gadori, which I've just been seeing everywhere, and I just think this cover is really fun and pretty, and I love people who are characters who intersect spaces. Like, I think they're diaspora Korean, and I like that. I think there's found family. It's also an indie publisher. And so I always like to supporting those when I can. So that is the priority TBR. Do I think I'll read all 20? No. But if I come back this time next year and I'm like, I read 10 of them, I'd be pretty content. Because I think I'm actually pretty good at going through my TBR. Like, I bought more than this year, but I've already read a lot of my physical TBR that I bought as it came in. And that's just kind of how I like it to go. I'm not someone who I think wants to instate a one in, one out sort of thing. But, it's good to check in and be like, am I reading as much as I'm bringing in? And I think so far I am. And I think this is an exciting stack. Let me know what your physical TBR goals are for next year, or, any TBR goals, like especially if you're more library oriented or eARC oriented, or I don't know, whatever you choose to do with your time. If you want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, let's leave a house emoji, because I have 2 haunted house books that incredibly excite me. Again, I don't know if this is a haunted house, but house tension book. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!